Hello, and welcome to my new YouTube channel. My channel is called Musings and Racing. I will be discussing all of the things that run through my head as it relates to racism. It's just something that I've always been passionate about, and I think that I want to put my voice to it instead of just tweeting and Facebooking about it. My name is Connie, Khanknee. You can follow me on Twitter at Khanknee, and I hope to see you there as well as here to kind of help me flesh out the issues. My goal is really to generate dialogue, like open, honest dialogue between black people and white people about racism. It's always been my experience that white people are very afraid to discuss racism for various reasons, which we'll get into maybe later or maybe some other time. So again, I'm very passionate about racism. One, because it's very evil. We all know it's evil. We all know the history, of racism. And as Hillary Clinton said, it's America's original sin. Dear Hillary, stop using euphemisms. It was called slavery and racism. Say the words. People like me are not going to vote for you because you can't say the words racism, white people, black people, all in one sentence. So, now that I got that off my chest, racism kills dreams, it kills lives, it's horrible, it's violent. I can't even understand how anyone can really harbor racism in their heart. And on one hand, I say that, and I'll be honest with you, I do have bad thoughts about white people. I don't think that makes me racist, but that makes me a person who lives in America, who's experienced things that don't make me happy, who's been subjected to bad treatment from white people. So I don't ever want to hide behind a veil that I love white people or I hate white people. But I do want to openly discuss my feelings, and I want to be careful to say I don't speak for all black people. These are my thoughts, my musings. If I do feel it's something that's kind of universal with black people, I'll say that, but know this, nobody appointed me the black spokesperson. So okay, so racism to me is, it's like a bad, I don't know, like a bad cloud. When I get up, I don't think about my color, I don't think of anything like that. But when I'm out in the world, little things happen here and there. And then I have to make a quick decision. Is this person being racist? Do they just not like me? Or are they just an asshole? So a long time ago I decided to err on the side of racism, because too many times I got burnt by not calling it racism. So now, if something happens and there really isn't a valid explanation for it, or should I say something negative happens between myself and a white person, or I feel that I'm being antagonized or condescended to by a white person, I'm going to go with racism. I used to think that was kind of silly and, I was being paranoid. But again, life has taught me that racism is very prevalent, very alive and kicking, and people who don't even think they're racist, if you put them in certain situations, their true colors come out. Even unbeknownst to them, their biases come out. So let me prepare you for this. When I'm on Twitter, a lot of people chastise me and say, listen, don't use the word white people, it turns them off. It's offensive, it's confrontational. Well, I'm going to use the word white people for the very reason that the racism I'm speaking about is coming from white people. Yes, I know that other people discriminate against black people and all other races discriminate against one another, but for the purposes of my channel, I'm pretty much going to be discussing black and white relations in America. Or the lack of relations in America. So let me start with this. One of the things that actually kills me is when people say, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, try harder, and characterize my good people as being lazy. My good people who built this country, who died in the Middle Passage, who were beaten, raped, maliciously maimed, and people say, you can do better. Well, that kind of makes me chuckle, because people act like when slavery ended, that black people just ran off the plantation and white people said, hey, welcome, brothers and sisters. Here's a bunch of money to compensate you for your past hard labor, your hundreds of years of labor, and we're not going to discriminate against you anymore. No, that's not what happened. What happened was black people stayed on the plantation, not because they wanted to, because they had no place to go. So they had to still work for the slave master for basically pennies, because they had to pay him now for food and lodging. And so then they just pretty much became indentured slaves, indentured servitude, which was horrible, because you were still in the same exact position. The money that you made, you paid right back to the slave master. So it's a miracle we even made it out of that. And that's why I'm so proud of my people. I don't care what people say. We've made it. We've stuck it out. And millions and millions and millions of us are doing great things and living great lives and are productive citizens in society. So to all you racists with all that, you thugs and criminals and welfare queens and whatever else you come up with that floats your boat, run with it. If it makes you feel better, if it makes you feel superior, stick with that. But I had a discussion, this was like, I don't know, I was in my 20s, and I was at a meeting, and as usual I was the only black person there, which is another topic. I get sick of that situation, especially in the workplace. But I was sitting at a table of about 12 people, and this older Jewish man kind of slyly said something. I can't quite remember what sparked the conversation, but he said something about his people came over here as immigrants and, made it. And the whole time he was saying these things, he was looking at me. And I resented it, and I knew what he was implying. So I sat there and I patiently listened, and other people chimed in and gave their little backstories about, their ancestors and what have you. And I listened, and I said, yeah, my people did the same thing too. And the table got quiet. And that's because I knew that the consensus was, no, your people aren't making it, and your people are trash. What do you mean you guys came over here and made it? So I went on to explain to them. I said, well, it's very easy to say that your ancestors came over here and made it, but what you overlook is, for instance, a lot of Jewish people came here and they changed their names and they assimilated. They didn't actually assimilate. They pretended they were someone else so that they could get ahead. And then when they were able to successfully do that, then they started wearing their Stars of David and their yarmulkes and all of that. So I explained to them, with black people, no, we didn't have that luxury. When you wake up, you're black, your skin is brown, your hair may be straight, it may be curly, it may be kinky, whatever it is. You are black all day, every day. A lot of Jewish people and Eastern European Jews and people of that sort, they would chop off their name. So if their name was Oktanovich, they just said, I'm Octan. Silverstein became Silver. Black people never had the luxury of doing that. I don't know if I would have ever wanted to do that. I'm very proud of my black heritage, so I can't say that's something that I would have aspired to do, but given the conditions from which we came, yeah, I probably would have if I could have. But having said that, I have to stop saying but so much. But anyway, having said that, I went on to explain to them how racism at that time, I guess, like I said, I was in my 20s, so I explained to them, I said, I don't know if I'm going to get to a job interview and I'm not going to get the job because of the color of my skin. And I said, sometimes on the telephone they don't know what my race is and they're very excited about me and they love my resume. And the phone interview goes exceptionally well. And then I get there and I can see the look on their face because they were expecting a little white girl and they get brown skinned Connie Collins. I remember I was sitting in a waiting room. I was the only person there. And the receptionist called for the man that was coming to interview me to come out, and he came out and he looked all around and he said, Connie Collins? And I remember thinking, this is really stupid. I'm the only person in the waiting room. So anyway, I stood up and he smiled kind of grudgingly and we shook hands. But the interview went really well and I got the job. But I knew that I had an extra hurdle to overcome because he saw me and he saw everything that he thought black people should be. He didn't expect a black woman to have the credentials that were required for that position. So he thought that I was going to be LaQuisha Coquisha, the welfare queen, when he saw my brown skin. But when we sat and we talked and we engaged, he realized, okay, this is a qualified human who sits before me. But I had to explain this to the table of people that I was sitting with, the Jewish people. Well, it was Jewish people and white people. Is that politically incorrect? Or Jewish people, white people? I know Jewish is a religion. Anyway, so I explained that to them, and I said, I can't change the color of my skin to get a job. I can't take the kink out of my hair to get a job or to get housing. Anything. I'm black all day, every day. I can't sit here and be anybody but myself. And all the assimilation in the world doesn't stop a racist from hating on me. And they all thought about it, and they said, I never looked at it that way. I said, I'm sure you haven't, because you don't have to. And I said, so it's very easy to sit and tell a person of African heritage what we should do and what we should be doing when you're not looking around you to try to erase that negative mindset that's holding my people back. And then we went on into further discussion, and I started discussing all of the obstacles that have been thrown in our way since slavery ended. They said they never thought of that, and I said, well, how can that be? I mean, we all walk the same earth, we all have the same history. Well, apparently, from my understanding, especially from being on Twitter, a lot of white people don't know American history, which is basically African history. So that's one of the purposes that I'm going to have for this channel, is to discuss things like that. So anyway, I think I'll leave it at this, and I look forward to speaking with you more, and have a good day. Bye-bye.